Good evening, friends, and welcome to a late night edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Melanie Little. Tonight, we are going to get into Rex Heuermann's court appearance today in Riverhead. I have with me my good friend Melanie Little. She was out at the courthouse, and we are going to give you a little bit of bird's eye view, if you will, boots on the ground, as Melanie stated in her live stream from earlier. Thank you for being here, Melanie. It is just so great to have your experience, and also you're inside the courtroom. I know the audience can't wait to hear your perspective and your take on this.
Yeah, it was quite a day. It was quite a day.
Yeah, and before we get into it, I want to just say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the subscribers, the moderators, the replay viewers, the folks who leave super thanks and super chats during the course of the live streams, the replay viewers who leave super thanks. Amazing. Thank you, guys. And we always appreciate the support here. It's what helps us to bring you great content, to up our game with audio and visual and, the whole experience. So we greatly appreciate you guys. And if you're not yet subscribed here and over on Melanie Little's channel, I have it linked in the description. So never fear. You can go and check out her content all day, every day. I highly recommend it. Melanie, before we play our little piece here, the intro, could you just give the audience, and most have heard, your experience from today, but just walk them through what, your plans were. I know we were on the air and you were ready to go, and just give them a little overview of how your day went.
What happened today? So the court website had the conference scheduled for 8 a.m., but knowing that the courthouse doors don't open until 9 a.m., typically the calendars are called first call at 9:30. So when I first got there, there was not a lot of people in line. So I thought, all right, this is going to be great. It's going to be not a lot of people. So we went up to the courtroom. There were about 20 of us in there. And the judge came on. He heard a couple of cases. And then they told us that the hearing for Heuermann had been put over until 2 p.m. So we kind of had to go back outside the courtroom and then get in line again, because there was a line of media forming outside the courtroom. And then we kind of had to wait until 2 o'clock to go in. So we're going to get to that, but it was chilling.
Yeah. And I watched the replay because I was sitting down for dinner with the family when you went live. But, I watched your replay, and to see your car ride out to Riverhead and the way you set everything up and the way you explained to the audience, it was, I haven't seen anything like it on YouTube as of yet. So thank you for bringing that to the community. We share a lot of the same subscribers, and I thought that it was a fantastic bird's eye view of what went on. And you stood outside for that press conference. I know your audio wasn't great when you're using your phone. The audio from the phone, unless you have like a pick mic or like a booth.
There were generators going on behind me because all of the media had no power. So they had generators. There was a guy behind me for some schlocky news station going live really loudly while the DA was speaking. It was a mess.
Wow.
It was a mishigas. But
hey, before we show this piece, I want to say, what a mess. And you juggled it, and you did a great job, because you still got those shots. And you know what? I was able to hear because I was listening with headset, little earbuds and so forth. But the audio wasn't that bad. So the iPhone picked it up pretty decent. I think if you had an Android, it might have been a little better, but I'm
all right. Put the link in the description for the Android that you recommend.
Gail Gardner was in the chat, and she said she lost her husband on January 12th. And I'm so sorry for your loss, Gail. We send you strength, as always, prayers, positive vibes. And if you need to, reach out, DutyRon.com is the place to do it. I'm always answering questions and comments on there. And also, coincidentally, the reason we're live here tonight, well, the reason I was going to go solo, and Melanie and I were communicating, and she said, I'm up, I'm ready to go. So the reason I went live is because of you guys, the user input, and the folks who are asking me, hey, we'd like to hear yours, your commentary, your Ed's thoughts, Melanie's thoughts. I received an abundance of inquiries about this. So I figured, let's get this, let's do this. Let's get that out there. Let's put it out there, and let's not wait till tomorrow. So that's why, listen, you guys know me, I don't go live 3 days in a row. It's very rare that I do that. But this was important, and it was an important court date. And we're going to talk all about the evidence that was turned over. You know, they talked about crime scene photos. They talked about the autopsy reports. They talked about DNA, but terabytes of information. And we'll get into that when we come back. Let's take a listen to this, Melanie.
Rex Heuermann, the man suspected in the Gilgo Beach killings, made an appearance in court today.
CBS 2's Jennifer McLogan joins us live from Riverhead with the latest developments in the case. Jennifer?
Christina Maurice, good evening. Prosecutors just turned over 2,500 pages of documents and hours of video surveillance to Rex Heuermann's defense team. His family was not in court for the 32-minute conference. It was our first glimpse of the hulking accused serial killer since the stunning Gilgo Beach murder case broke last month. Families of victims walked out of court in silence and grief, having just seen the accused serial killer up close, his mop of unwashed hair and tight.
These are actual pool. Melanie talked about this on her live, and I'm not going to stop it again. But this is the one pool photographer that was allowed in the courtroom. And for those of you who are chiming in about if this trial will be televised, this trial, we don't know if it will kick off in months from now or years from now. It is up to the judge. He makes that decision, he or she, they make that decision. It's not something that is just a guarantee. It's not something that we're saying is not going to happen. It's a 50-50 shot. It's like a roll of the dice. And if they allow it, and as Melanie has said in previous live streams, Suffolk County in particular, they don't really allow it. Look, we had a very noteworthy trial recently of Michael Valva, accused of murdering his autistic son, putting him in the garage in 19-degree temperatures here, Fahrenheit. That was not allowed to be a live stream or a live feed. We got pool photography, we got pool video after the fact. So that may, I'm not saying that that's what it's going to be, but don't get your hopes up for this, but it is a roll of the dice.
Look, they've already hired Jane Rosenberg. They're not going to put her out of work.
Exactly. All right, let's let the rest of this run.
Blue jacket, 59-year-old Rex. The victims walked out of court in silence and grief, having just seen the accused serial killer up close, his mop of unwashed hair and tight blue jacket. 59-year-old Rex Heuermann glared towards those assembled as he left in handcuffs.
There's no plea deal. He said from the moment I met him that I did not do this. So we're prepared to go forward. We will defend this case in a court of law, and we will go to trial in this case.
The court conference was brief, no application for bail or change of venue. Heuermann remains in custody as prosecutors turn over reams of discovery, photos, videos, DNA, hours of surveillance. It will take months to review.
You're talking about 13 years worth of investigation. So it is, I'm not going to speak for defense counsel, but suffice to say, it is a massive amount of material. And don't forget, it's continuing.
Suffolk County DA Ray Tierney plans to try the case himself. Since Heuermann's arrest, his estranged wife, Asa Ellerup, has filed for divorce. She asked for space for her family and her neighbors. When the family returned to their Massapequa Park home, in photos provided by her attorney, they discovered boxes strewn about, piled high, litter everywhere, and said they were blindsided by the charges.
She had no idea any of this was going on.
The 12-day search involved cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar, and heavy equipment. Investigators say they discovered a walk-in vault in the basement and recovered hundreds of weapons that belonged to the architect.
Rex Heuermann, I'm an architect. I'm an architectural consultant. I'm a troubleshooter.
Rex, did you do it?
Investigators say they've used DNA and data from burner phones to link Heuermann to the murders of 3 women whose bodies were found on Gilgo Beach back in 2010. They say he's also the prime suspect in the killing of a 4th woman.
We've worked through the grand jury process. That grand jury process is continuing. The good thing about the grand jury process is we can subpoena witnesses and evidence, but it's also secret.
Heuermann has yet to receive a single visit from his family in jail. He remains under suicide watch, but his attorney says that he is eager to prove his innocence. Meantime, a GoFundMe has been set up to assist wife Asa Ellerup and the children. We're live tonight in Riverhead, Long Island.
So that was a lot of information, Melanie. It really went over, the day, and it also covered a lot of things from the past. I hope you don't mind, and I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I would like you, if you could, to give our audience, and again, they might have heard it on your live stream, how this court proceeding started at 2 o'clock. I know that judges are not on time. A lot of times they make you wait. If you don't mind, Melanie,
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I know you've been through it, but could you just walk our audience through you as, for those of you who do not know, Melanie Little went to Riverhead to the courthouse. As you see here, Jennifer McLogan from CBS 2, she walked in those very same doors and went into the courtroom and sat for this entire 10 or 15-minute conference. Take it away, Mel.
Yeah, and I'm an attorney, and I've been an attorney here for about 30 years, and I've been practicing in Nassau, Suffolk County, Manhattan, Queens, the Bronx for my entire career. So this is a familiar courthouse to me. So 2 o'clock comes around, and by this time, the courtroom is packed, not a seat in the house. I think they had an overflow room. There were 118 seats in the courtroom. The chairs were similar to like auditorium style seating, I would say, not like some courtrooms that we've seen a lot of lately on TV have bench seating, like almost like church pews.
Like the old style movie theater seats, like back
Yeah, that's
then?
what these were like, except they weren't,
cool.
they didn't recline, so more like auditorium seats, like a school auditorium, I would say.
Gotcha.
But new, it's new. It's a new courthouse. It's beautiful, nice wood paneled walls and such. So there were 118 of us in the gallery. First 2 rows are reserved for only media and law enforcement. And since I don't have media credentials, I have only attorney credentials. I was like in the 3rd row, but I sat on the aisle because I knew where Rex was going to be brought in, and I wanted to be able to get a good look. So the way that the courtroom is set up, in case you're not familiar, well, every courtroom is different, but the judge sits up front at a bench, and his court clerk introduced him as Judge Mazey, but his name is spelled Mazzei, and being half Italian, I would say Mazzy, but I'm going to assume she has the correct pronunciation. So Judge Mazey is at
the clerk better have the judge's name right?
Well, when she called the case at first, she said the case of Rex Harmon.
Oh.
So that makes me kind of wonder, because then when she came out for the second time, she did kind of get towards Heuermann, but not quite. So I'm not quite sure. So as we're sitting in the gallery, there's 118 of us. There are 18 court officers placed strategically around the gallery. I would say 1 every 3 feet, armed, uniformed, large, burly men. So to my right is a jury box, which is full of people. It's fully seated. That is very unusual for a court conference because that's where the jury sits, and usually nobody sits there during conferences. But what we came to find out later is that's where the families were sitting of the victims.
Gotcha.
Rex's wife and children were nowhere to be seen. They were not in the courtroom. Directly in front of the judge are the 2 attorneys' tables side by side, the defense on one side, this side, and the prosecution on the other. There was a court reporter on the right side, and the court clerk sits on the left side. There were also court officers strategically placed around the attorneys. And then there's a half wall before you get to the gallery. So the judge got on the bench, and the court clerk called the case, and she said this time something a little closer to Heuermann. And so you can see the door right behind where Rex is. That's the door they brought him in. So he only had to walk about 3 feet to his attorney. That's his attorney, the bald man right there. His name's Michael Brown. He's assigned counsel. He also has private practice, but in this case, he's a public defender. His hands were handcuffed in the front. He was wearing what I called a rumpled blazer. I don't know if it's navy or black, but it looked rumpled and kind of not well pressed. His khakis were also very rumply. I was watching him from behind. I never saw his face, but the chill that I just got when he walked into the room, it was chilling. It's like you could almost feel the evil entering the room. It was a really weird, experience, because I usually wouldn't say something like that. That's not my thing, but you could really just feel the evil emanating from this guy. And then he never said a word the entire time. And the judge said, okay, district attorney, where are we on discovery? And you can see the gentleman who is not Ray Tierney, who was in that photograph. See, this is Jane Rosenberg. She's a very famous courtroom sketch artist. She has sketched everyone from Ghislaine Maxwell recently to Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby. The list goes on and on. Mark David Chapman, who shot John Lennon. She's very famous in New York, which is why I think this will not be televised, because they have the best of the best sketch artist. But that sketch that you just showed, you could just see how she captured his ogre-like quality.
Yes.
It's almost something out of like a Hobbit movie or the Shrek or something.
She did a phenomenal job. And I thought it was fascinating that you got to meet and talk with her, right? You said you spoke.
Yes, we talked for a while. She was so nice. We were one of the first people there. We were there early in the morning. So we were talking and they let her go in early. We went in for since we were all there early, about 20 of us, we went in for the early calendar call.
Right.
And they let her come in early so she could start sketching the judge, so that she could get some sketches of him done before.
Right. And artists like to get it set up where there's no confusion or there's no rush. They want to get set up. They want to be able to draw, and they have to be kind of like peaceful when they're doing this stuff. So I know, because my father-in-law, may he rest in peace, was an inker and an artist for Marvel Comics. So he had his studio in the basement of my wife's home that she grew up in, and you couldn't even go down there while he was working. He wanted to just be peaceful and left alone amongst all his comic books, and it was pretty interesting. I have this picture up because not only is it showing his new bracelets that he will be donating for a great deal of time going forward, but the lock, somebody in the chat asked about this lock, and what this lock is. And I'm very familiar because I worked in fugitive enforcement and I did a lot of prisoner transports. In other words, we went to other jurisdictions and picked up savages like this from other jurisdictions, and that lock goes down to his shackles and chains down to his feet, and that lock ensures that there's no possible way, if he was able to pick those handcuffs, that he would be able to just get out and be free. Because that lock has a chain that's attached to the chain part of the handcuffs, which goes all the way down to his feet, and secures the shackles at his feet. I don't know if you if you were in the third row, you probably didn't get a look down, because I'm very familiar. That whole holding pen in the back, I've been in the back of that many a times.
There's that half wall. So
there's usually about 3 to 5 cells, depending on the courtroom, because, most times they're doing cases and, there's maybe 1 or 2 on the docket for the day or whatever the case may be. But when you're in central booking or even smaller jurisdictions, I've been into Nassau, I've been into this, Suffolk County regularly. Back there is just, small cells. Attorneys go in there, talk, have a little conference with their clients before and after. So yeah, I'm very familiar with that whole setup. But go ahead, Melanie. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. So first, did I say that first the judge took the attorneys back in chambers for about 35 minutes? Yeah. So when the judge first took the bench, he said, I want to see the attorneys in chambers. So he took the DA and his team and the defense attorney, and he had 1 or 2 other attorneys with him, into his chambers for about 35 minutes. And they had a private conference outside the purview of the gallery and the families. And then when he came back, he went on the record again. That's when they brought Heuermann in. And then he asked I guess he's the ADA, because it was not Ray Tierney who spoke. He said, where are we on discovery? And he said, Your Honor, we've just turned over 8 terabytes of information, as well as 6 discs, 2,500 pages of documents, which include scene photos, autopsy reports, anthropology reports, DNA reports, surveillance video of both Megan Waterman, who was last seen at the Holiday Inn in Hauppauge, Long Island, which is also in Suffolk County, surveillance footage of the defendant during this time period where they were tailing him for about a little over a year, right? March to June. all the DNA evidence, and an inventory of all the items that were taken from the Heuermann home. So
Yeah.
there is a ton of information that they just turned over today.
Melanie, while you're on the terabytes situation, I want folks in the audience to understand. 5 terabytes, we're talking about 8 total here. 5 terabytes holds 83,000 MP3 music files. So 8 holds over 150,000. It can hold over 2,000 full feature, full length motion pictures, 100 and probably somewhere around 200,000 photographs, and a total of 13 years of evidence. Now, we do not know if all 13 years of the evidence has been handed over, because, as you know, discovery comes out in little, dribs and drabs here. But as it pertains to Kohberger, and you mentioned this in your live stream earlier, we have an extreme contrast here. We have a willingness of the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office to share the information they have. Whereas in Kohberger, you have a complete and polar total opposite. There's a lot of secrecy, there's a lot of hiding and holding on to evidence. And again, this is not a live stream about Kohberger, but we're just bringing up the extreme differences here. Right, Mel?
Right. Yeah, that they turned all of this stuff over on day one. Whereas in Kohberger, we saw motion after motion after motion being made. We want this, we want that. Why aren't you giving it to us? Why is it taking you so long to get it together? When, Tierney had all his ducks in a row. He said, here you go.
Right. So again, I knocked you maybe off your train of thought, but because I feel it's fascinating and it's great that you did what you did, because I don't think anybody, I know the media was there, but I don't think anybody from YouTube, and you cannot get this perspective from anybody else, because Riverhead is not an easily accessible spot. It's kind of far out east, and most people, unlike us, are covering this stuff from outside the New York metro area. So take it away, Bill.
The people I was in line with were News Nation, Dateline, CNN, Inside Edition. Everybody was from a major news outlet. NBC. What did you just play? CBS. Jennifer McLogan. She's been reporting since I want to say like for a very, very long time.
30 years, 30 plus years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe she was on News 12 originally. That's where I know her from. She was there. She was in the hallway, and so the DA said that the ADA said that they were, going to give out discovery on a rolling basis as they get it. They're just going to keep turning it over. The judge asked if they could agree on the next conference date, and they agreed on September 27th at 9:30, allegedly. Hopefully I'll find out if it's going to be really at 2 next time before I go out there. And that was it. And then we all left and went outside for the press conference. And, it should be noted also, he's being kept at Suffolk County Correctional Facility, which is really a stone's throw from the courthouse. It's right behind the courthouse. I did take some video of it that I did not show earlier. I kind of pulled up because you can't really get in there, just to give like an outside view.
Yeah, so Central Islip Court is also turnkey. They have their jail and their holding. It's all in one building, so they don't even have to move, do any prisoner movements. Whereas in Yapping, where he's being held out in the Riverhead jail, they have to transport him. They have to put him on, and that's a big on-taking, because you're worried about someone trying to do a hit and try to kill him. There's just so much to the movement, escape possibilities and so forth. But I just wanted to also remind everybody is that higher profile cases like this, they automatically get put on suicide watch. We learned this from Anthony Ganji from Tier Talk. This is nothing but routine that they had him with the turtle suit, with that green vest on, the breakaway with the Velcro. It's just a way to keep this person who is innocent until proven guilty alive. Where he cannot hurt himself or harm himself. They segregate him. They put him in isolation, not to do it because they're trying to be mean, that they're doing it for his safety, for the staff's safety, and for the safety of all other inmates. So there's no kind of issues or fights over, hey, let me get to see this guy, or let me get a piece of this guy. So Heuermann will be probably off suicide watch after a 30, 45-day period, maybe more, maybe less, but there is nothing that's odd about this at all. This is routine. And the jail that he's being housed in, I actually know several correction officers. I've got their cell phone numbers and also have supervisory officers where I could communicate with them. I don't feel it's even necessary. I don't even bother them or reach out to them because I know how routine this is. I have a
and his attorney addressed that too during the press conference.
Oh, okay.
He said, they asked him, they said, "Are you worried that he's going to commit suicide?" And he said, "No, they do this in every high profile case."
Correct. And you know, when you have someone, even if it's not like something that's so newsworthy like this, somebody takes another person's life or is stands charged with a high felony where they're going to be possibly doing life or long sentences, they do the same thing just for even a Joe Blow. It doesn't have to be the Gilgo 4 or Long Island serial killer case. I want to play a piece from ABC because they go over some of the evidence and they put up some of the stuff. I think this is important for our folks to see. Let's let this rip and then we'll be back.
Beach murders and the accused serial killer Rex Heuermann appearing in court this afternoon.
Heuermann stood before a judge in Suffolk County for the second time in his life, rocking back and forth on his heels as he learned the evidence against him.
And among that evidence, several hard drives turned over from the search in his home and about 2,500 pages of documents and photographs.
And within those documents, autopsy reports for the women he's accused of killing. There were also DNA reports and surveillance footage taken from inside his home.
Eyewitness News reporter Shantae Lance was in court this afternoon and joined us live in Riverhead. Shantae?
Well, Sade and Bill, Rex Heuermann stood tall, towering over court officers with a stern face as attorneys discussed the evidence. For the first time since his arraignment, accused Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann appears in court.
All I can say is he's presumed innocent. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of leads in this case, and we haven't even seen them yet.
Heuermann's attorney requested the mounting evidence from prosecutors, much of it pulled from Heuermann's home.
The district attorney provided us with apparently 8 terabytes of discovery, which we're obviously going to go through with fine detail over the coming months.
Heuermann, an architect and father of 2, was arrested outside of his Manhattan office in charge in the deaths of Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. Investigators are still trying to determine if he murdered Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Their bodies were 4 of 10 found along Gilgo Beach on Long Island South Shore more than a decade ago.
There were some victims who were family members of the victims who were here today.
Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney is prosecuting the case.
Don't forget it's continuing because the investigation is continuing. So we're talking about a massive amount of material.
Heuermann's family was not in court. His estranged wife, Asa Ellerup, briefly speaks with me at her Massapequa Park home. Standing in her foyer with her son by her side, Ellerup.
So this woman went to her house today, Mel, while the court was going on. And as we heard from the piece prior, they haven't visited him in court, but we heard the defense. What is it? Michael Brown. Michael Brown. Thank you. So we heard his defense attorney, Michael Brown. He kind of tippy-toed. We're going to play this on the next piece. We'll play him first, and then we'll listen to Tierney a little bit. But Michael Brown kind of was, you saw how he was trying to play that card because he wants her to kind of be on their side and not on the side of the prosecution. So he was just like, we really haven't heard from her, and she's got a lot going on, But this reporter goes to the door and she actually spoke with her. So it's a stark contrast to what we saw some 4 days ago when she was giving the finger to the reporters, right?
Yeah. I haven't seen this yet. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, so let me just back it up just a tad bit. All right, there's Popeye starting to curse again.
Massapequa Park home. Standing in her foyer with her son by her side, Ellerup tells me her life is in turmoil, sharing these images of the chaos and destruction left behind that her attorney says was done by law enforcement after a 12-day search of Rex Heuermann.
There's the tub that you talked about, Melanie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It looks like they actually took a Sawzall to it.
Yep.
And cut out.
And look, they ripped up all the tile on the floor. She can't even use the toilet, she said.
Yeah, see, the tile is completely gone. There's a drain here in the middle of the floor, and I'm thinking like Ed Wallace now. There had to have been a real strong reason why they ripped up those tiles. They didn't just do it to be mean, and also cut out. This is a Sawzall cut. I could see it. They're going to have to answer to that on the search warrant return. So we will hear about why. And at this time, we don't know. And I could tell you that they didn't just do it just to have fun. They ripped these tiles up. If they did, in fact, rip them up, we don't know if it was like that before. But I have to assume that it wasn't. But they had to have reason to do that. And we will hear about it. So let's let the rest of this play.
After a 12-day search of Rex Heuermann's home.
It was traumatic, leave a house in one state and return to have everything from couches cut open to bathtubs, sliced apart, to walls broken into.
Meanwhile, Rex Heuermann's attorney says he maintains his innocence.
There's no plea deal. He said from the moment I met him that I did not do this. So we're prepared to go forward. We will defend this case in a court of law, and we will go to trial in this case.
Rex Heuermann is due back in court next month on September 27th.
So September 27th is the next court date. And I just want to, Melanie, if you don't mind, say hello to the live chatters, because they've been patient here for 31 minutes. Everybody's been talking amongst themselves. So let's take a moment to highlight some of your chats, and thank you to anybody and everybody who's given super chats during the course of this live stream. Let's say hi to Miss Donna Marie, Dawn Marie,
Joey Brooklyn.
Yeah, look at them all.
Curious Kiwi, she's showing up all the time.
Papa Smurf, the OG, always present for the live streams. Thank you, Papa. Appreciate you. Moni So New York City. I think I messed that one up. But hi, Moni. Appreciate you being here. Peggy, good to see you. Thank you, Curious Kiwi. She always will slip in a question no matter what. At DutyRon, I think law enforcement should put them up in other accommodations if left such a mess in the house. Now, Curious Kiwi is from, she's Aussie. She's from Australia. Over here, they don't do that. What law enforcement does, and this does piss people off a lot, is they secure the premise. If they boom that door or broke that door or broke anything to secure the home, they will correct that. But outside of that, you would have to either put a claim in with your homeowners, and some homeowners would say, we don't cover if there's someone in your household is alleged to have committed a crime and the police come in with a court-ordered search warrant and search through your home and leave it in disarray. We don't cover that. The cutting out of the tub, the tiles, that may fall under homeowners, but I don't know. I'm not an expert at this stuff. But I know that in the city of New York, if we damage stuff, there is a legal process that you can go through to sue the city of New York, the New York City Police Department, for damages that were created. We throw flashbangs into apartments, Melanie, and windows would bust out. We would have someone come and put wood over the windows, and then eventually, depending on the dwelling, fix those windows if it's New York City public housing. But a private house, it would just be like a suit. So yeah, they don't put you up anywhere. It's again, it's not common practice, and it would be Nassau County, not Suffolk. However, if Suffolk County executed those warrants, then it would not lie on Nassau County Police. I'd have to guess that Suffolk County detectives, the task force, is comprised of Suffolk County, the district attorney, Suffolk County, the state police, the FBI, and Nassau County Police. But the Suffolk County Police have him in custody. So I would have to say the onus of any type of litigation or any kind of, liability would be on Suffolk County. So
I was just looking at my notes because this was addressed at the conference. One of the reporters said to Ray Tierney, Miss Ellerup gave a statement to a reporter, and she said that she's very upset about the way that the condition that the house was left in. What would you say to her? What should she do? And he said, and I quote, she should pursue whatever remedies she feels appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's basically saying sue us. You know,
yeah.
Good luck with that. But who knows? Maybe Suffolk County pays out right away. I don't know. Let's take a listen to the full defense statement. It is 10 minutes. I happen to like this guy's fire. If I was standing accused of something bad, I would want somebody to fight for me as well. And again, people don't hate on this statement. Innocent until proven guilty. We are all afforded that right. And I don't care how heinous the crime is. I don't care how much evidence that they're showing right now. And DA attorney is, Tierney or whatever. I know I'm chopping his name up. He is a babbler. He speaks a lot. We know a lot about this case because he likes to rubber gum it. So, but this guy, I don't know, Mel, how do you feel about him? He's a ball of fire.
Yeah, he is. And I said earlier today, I said, it's too bad that this trial won't be televised because he's the perfect TV lawyer. He's the guy you want to watch on TV trying a case. He's got charisma. He's like a bada bing, bada boom. He's got a lot of New York in him. He's got a lot of, he's very passionate about what he does.
He's passionate. Yeah, all of the above. He checks off all the boxes. That being said, I wouldn't want a job of a defense attorney as it pertains to somebody like Rex Heuermann, but we are all afforded that right. That the burden of proof is on the state. And he says some things here that I really haven't heard many defense attorneys say, and I don't want to give it away. And I know you and I know what I'm talking about. By a show of hands here in the chat, put a 1 in the chat if you heard or watched this statement by Rex Heuermann's defense attorney, and this is his co-counsel. I don't know her name, but she was agreeing and head bobbing quite a bit during the course of this statement. And Melanie, set up for the audience where you were as it stands in relation to where these guys are talking.
So where he's looking, that's where I was standing. I was behind about 4 or 5 cameras because those cameras were set up since 7 a.m. So I just kind of, scooted under the rope. And luckily I had my tripod with me, but there was no way for me to set it up. So I was just holding my camera over my head, and that's how I got the footage I got. But that's where I was.
It was like at the Dead concerts with the lighter, right?
Right.
A lot of number 1s in the chat, Mel. I don't know if you saw that. A lot of number 1s, some number 2s. Some people missed it and they want to see it. Some people know about it. So let's let this rip. It's a little lengthy, and I'll try not to interrupt. But if you want me to stop it at any point, let me know.
Answer some of your questions. I don't know much.
Can you move over to the right?
Sure. Today we had our first conference on the case. We conferenced with the judge in the back. The district attorney provided us with apparently 8 terabytes of discovery, which we're obviously going to go through with fine detail over the coming months. I understand there's going to be more discovery forthcoming, and we have a new court date of September 27th. That's the next scheduled court date. And again, it's going to be a conference date, and we'll update the judge on where we're at. So if I can answer some questions, I'll do my best. Well, he's incarcerated.
So now this was a hard thing. Like I heard the question because I have earbuds in, but a lot of people in the audience are not going to hear what these reporters are shouting out to them. But you had a front row seat to it. Did you recall that first question that reporter asked?
How is your client feeling?
Okay, let's hear his answer.
He's a man who's never been arrested before. He's maintained his innocence from the inception of this case. So he's doing the best he can at this point in time. He's looking forward to having his day in court.
What kind of thoughts is he sharing with you? Family?
Yes, they asked. He was looking over his shoulder in the gallery. Was he looking for his family? Was his family there? And by the way, for everyone who's asking about the GoFundMe, we're not posting it in the chat, but we have it posted in the description. It'll be linked in the description after the video is over. You'll have plenty of time. It's not going to go anywhere. Go and check it out. But right now, we're trying to just conduct this live stream, so we're not going to be posting up GoFundMes and stuff like that. It's going to be linked permanently in the description.
I didn't see him with no.
Do you know if he's had a
case? So he's doing the best he can at this point in time. He's looking forward to having his day in court.
He was looking over what kind of thoughts is he sharing with you?
Family? I didn't see him looking over his shoulder.
Do you know if he's had any contact with his family?
Sure, he's had contact with his wife, yes.
So they asked, does he have any contact with his family? And it was reported that his family hasn't seen him in the prison where he's being held in the jail. I mean, so in the jail, they didn't physically come there and show up and be in person, but he's stating that they've had contact, and that could mean phone contact.
That's
right?
what he says. Yeah, he says phone contact. I think after that,
I didn't watch the whole thing, so I'm watching it with you guys as
I thought so.
All right.
Has she visited?
Family members. I don't think she's visited yet, obviously, because she doesn't want to be ambushed by the press. So she hasn't been. She hasn't visited him at the jail.
She spoke to the press in her house.
Do you have any questions about the case? I'm happy.
I love that. I love that pivot. Did you see the look he gave that guy? She talked to the press in her house, and he's like,
it's like, are you serious right now?
This guy, you should never play poker because you know what I mean. Like he was like,
I gotta
he's not faking it. You have any questions about the case?
Yeah, he's like, come on, lady, give me a break.
Pushed by the press, so she hasn't been. She hasn't visited him at the jail.
She spoke to the press in her house.
Do you have any questions about the case? I'm happy to answer.
Does she have any remarks about the fact that he filed the divorce or she's filed the divorce?
He has, and I'm not representing him.
So what was that? Did you catch that?
No, I think it was like the divorce. Do you know anything about the divorce? Like who filed the divorce? Something like that.
Do you have any remarks about the fact that he filed the divorce?
Oh yeah. Does he know that she filed for divorce?
So I can't really discuss anything about his divorce.
Last time you said he was emotional.
He was
after hearing
emotional
about the charges. Has it settled in? Has there been any change in his emotion since?
Well, now that when I've been meeting with him at the jail, obviously we're talking about substance as opposed to the initial shock. So now it's really gearing up towards the defense in this case.
Does also support her husband? Does she support her husband? Does she believe he's innocent?
You're going to have to talk to her. I don't know. I haven't spoken to her.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, I didn't hear what they asked.
He did. He said, "Does she support her? Does she believe he's innocent?"
Okay, you'll have to go and ask her that. He said.
Yeah.
Does she believe he's innocent?
You're going to have to talk to her. I don't know. I haven't spoken to her.
Mr. Brown has spoken extensively about his case in the public. How do you view that? Do you have concerns about him possibly affecting a possible jury?
So he's alluding to a change of venue, correct?
Yeah, I know him. That's Greg Sergel. He said the DA has been speaking out a lot about this case. He's been very vocal, to the public. Do you think that is going to affect the venue? Yeah, and then he's asking whether he thinks he's going to ask for a change of venue.
Yeah, and it can't hurt to ask. I mean,
sure. I mean, that's a question on everyone's mind. That was a great question.
Yeah, I'm not trying this case in the press. This case is a case that we're going to try in a courtroom. The press has convicted my client without seeing a shred of evidence. So he doesn't stand a chance with the press. And we're not going to try the case in the press. I doubt that any one of you for a moment have even contemplated the possibility that they have the wrong guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to defend this case in a courtroom. In the courtroom we just were in, where we have 12 fair and impartial jurors, where we have a fair and impartial judge, where words like presumption of innocence and beyond a reasonable doubt, where words like that reign every day. That's where we're going to try this case. So we're not going to try it in the press. We're going to do our due diligence. We're going to defend this case in a court of law.
Do you feel like police and authorities have the wrong guy?
All I can say is he's presumed innocent. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of leads in this case, and we haven't even seen them yet. I know about these leads from you folks who have reported these leads for the last 10 years, 12 years. So the answer is they very well could have the wrong guy.
I believe I read that he's a practicing attorney for over 30 years.
Probably.
Yeah, he looks like a younger dude. Like he looks like he's like 45 years old. But
I think he's my, in my same generation.
So he's young. He's young like you. Right? He's young like you.
I've been doing it for 30 years, so he could be too.
Explain the DNA link to Heuermann's wife, the Google searches, and the cell phone locating data.
Have you seen the DNA yet?
I'm asking how you.
So he asked about the DNA link to Heuermann's wife and the cell phone data. And he chimes back at him, have you seen the data? Have you seen the DNA? I mean, I don't know if, I mean, none of this is planned. This is a impromptu presser after this court appearance.
Yeah.
So he didn't have anything scripted, and all these questions were just volleyed at him. I mean, I thought that was.
I mean, he can definitely think on his feet.
I'm starting to get a little worried because he seems like a real hotshot, and
I'd want him defending me.
absolutely he's
I'd
got
hire him in a second.
Explain the DNA link to Heuermann's wife, the Google searches, and the cell phone locating data.
It's a good
Have
question.
you seen the DNA yet?
I'm asking how you.
I'm asking you, have you?
What the prosecution says links your client to these.
I haven't seen anything. Have you seen anything?
Well, I'm asking how you, as his lawyer, explain what the DA describes as voluminous amounts of.
The government is looking to convict my client. I haven't seen anything. So I can't sit here and defend DNA and recovery of evidence and things that they claim they have until I see it. I haven't seen anything. So I'm not going to, at this point in time, I can't tell you what defect. I haven't seen it.
What has your client told you?
What has my client told me? He told me he didn't do this.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, well, we're obviously, the district attorney's office has a whole office. They're the biggest law firm in this county. I'm one guy, right? So Ms. Koish is going to be co-counsel on this. We have other attorneys that I expect, excuse me, are going to be assisting on this. And just to pour through the discovery is an enormous task, but we're prepared for it. And we're going to do it. And whether it's a year and a half or 2 years, whenever that day comes, we're going to go in a court of law, and we're looking forward to defending this.
Do you think? For quite a bit talking about the discovery process, and you heard obviously everything that's in your hands now. I mean, just can you give a sense of the amount of evidence that you have in your hands?
I couldn't catch.
So what I was
Can you give us a sense of the amount of evidence that you have in your hands right now?
Okay, and now he goes on to explain that it's right here in my
You
bag.
just got it like today.
with today is what, and I'm not computer literate.
Of evidence that you have in your hands now.
So what I was provided to with today is what, and I'm not computer literate, is 8 terabytes of information. So I was told that a gigabyte is 6,000 pages, and I was told that there's 1,000 gigabytes in a terabyte. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, it's enormous.
Do you plan on going through some of these?
So again, to give you an example, 8 terabytes is over 100,000 MP3 music files. It's over 2,000 full-length feature films, over 200,000 plus photographs. It holds a tremendous amount of data. And if there's a plethora of a combination of videos and files and such, that's a lot. That's a lot to go through. So,
And he's a one-man shop. He said that. He's like, I'm a solo guy. I'm a solo practitioner. I don't have staff. I don't have attorneys that work for me. So he's going to get some because he needs somebody. He can't be sifting through all this stuff. He needs to have, associates doing that. So he needs a team.
Before the next court date.
Of course. I plan on going through it as soon as I get back to my office when I'm done talking to you folks.
Do you think you could have a fair trial here in Suffolk County, or are you considering moving it?
Well, that's
You get a fair
obviously
trial.
something we're going to look into in terms of change of venue. Unfortunately, or fortunately, you have the press reporting things to the public. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's skewed. So now you have the people in Suffolk County who are going to be sitting on the jury. We only hope that they will be fair and impartial, that they won't be influenced by the members of the press, and that they can listen to the evidence and decide for themselves if they have the right guy.
How quickly will you be sitting?
there's the answer to our question prior to going live. Phil Grimaldi's in the chat. He said 8 terabytes on this case, 51 terabytes on the Kohlberger. So
Wow.
what a mountain. And again, Kohlberger's Ann Taylor and what, 2 associates working with her co-counsel. So she has a team of 3. I think it's the guy, her, and another female to go through 51 terabytes. Don't forget, in the Kohlberger case, they used the Faro 3D laser scanner, and our good friend Luke Hall from Faro Technologies, he came on and told us how much data 1 hour scan of an interior of a building takes up. And that could be one of the reasons why there's 51 terabytes in the Kohlberger cases, because those Faro 3D laser scans, and we've confirmed that they did in fact use that, because Ed and I actually highlighted video of the Faro 3D laser scanner outside on a tripod and towards the interior of the home in the back, where it's alleged that Kohlberger entered through. So we saw the 3D laser scanner from Faro in and about the 1122 King Road property. So, and that could be the reason. Thanks, Phil, for being in the chat. Always good to see you, brother. You're always welcome. If you want, I'll throw you up a link. You could come up and chit chat with us for a little bit, but let's get through this.
This weren't handed over until we were in the courtroom. But what we were doing is discussing receiving of evidence, how it's going to be transported to our office, and how it's going to be forthcoming in the future. Again, this is a significant case, so it's not like it takes a minute or two. There's a lot involved in receiving discovery.
Do you anticipate taking up their offer of having somebody from the DA's office help you go through the search?
I'll take up anybody's offer to help assist on this
Do you
case.
expect another indictment against your client?
You'd have to ask the district attorney. I don't know the answer to that.
It's been reported he's been on suicide watch. Is there concern?
There is none. So what happens with suicide watch is the jail customarily, as a matter of course, when they have an inmate coming in, put somebody on suicide watch. So they have a mental evaluation, and there's been no indication that he has in any way indicated a suicidal tendency. That's just pro forma.
And Rex wants to go to trial. He's not interested in a plea deal of any kind.
There's no plea deal. He said from the moment I met him that I did not do this. So we're prepared to go forward. We will defend this case in a court of law, and we will go to trial on this case.
So he's dealing charges for child sexual.
Let's just say numerous.
So he is dealing hopeful.
He's feeling hopeful about what now?
Hopeful that he's going to be proven.
He doesn't have to be proven innocent. The burden on this case is on the district attorney or the government. They have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
How do you explain the charges that he was Googling child sexual material?
I don't know what kind of evidence they have. Again, that's the district attorney who has the obligation, and they're the ones who are going to provide us with the discovery. So I don't know what type of evidence they have. I haven't even seen their evidence, so I can't even tell you what, if anything, we will do. It's too premature.
You've seen that release. You said that he was Googling explicit material related to children. What does your client say about that?
Have you seen that yet? Do you believe everything the government?
Hold on a second before we.
This is great. This is great.
What did that attorney ask? I mean, what did that reporter ask him? You were
She
there.
said, what about those Google searches where he was Googling things about children and pornography? And he answered her, and then she kept asking. She did not stop. I think this was like she asked it once, he ignored it. He answered somebody else's question. She asked it again, he said something. Then she asked it for the third time, and this is when he goes off. Do you trust everything the government tells you?
Oh my goodness. All right, I pushed it back a little bit so we can try to hear this. So if you have headphones on, just put it, because I missed that, but I'm going to listen closely. Yeah.
So I don't know what type of evidence they have.
Are you going to present any evidence?
I haven't even seen their evidence, so I can't even tell you what, if anything, we will do. It's too premature.
You've seen that release. You said that he was Googling explicit material related to children. What does your client say about that?
Have you seen that yet?
I heard it that time.
What does your client say about that?
The government says, I don't. So I understand that the government has told you certain things. I don't believe everything the government says.
Now, Melanie, experienced trial attorney, how many times have you heard an attorney on TV say that? I haven't. This is like the first time for me.
I think he's got no filter, and I kind of like it.
Have you ever heard an attorney say that on TV?
No.
Yeah, neither.
I mean,
I've been
not a
around
criminal
cases
defense
so
attorney.
long. I've been around cases so long, and in the New York City Police Department since 1991, and I've seen so many high-profile cases where attorneys have represented defendants, and this is the first for me. And I actually when I heard, I didn't listen to this whole like press conference like this, but I heard the little snippets on the 6 o'clock news as I was eating dinner with the family. It was on in the living room, and I was like, did he just say that? And my son went running into the living room and rewound it, and I heard that, and I was like, holy crap, wow. But I'm going to let this whole thing play so everybody can hear it without us interrupting.
It's too premature.
But you've seen us release. You said that he was Googling explicit material related to children. What does your client say about that?
Have you seen that yet? Do you believe everything the government says? I don't. So I understand that the government has told you certain things. I don't believe everything the government says. So I'm going to wait until I get the evidence. I'm going to look at the evidence. We're going to examine the evidence, and we're going to move forward from there. Any other questions? I got to go into two more questions. Ms. Koish is on this matter. Mr. Russo is on this matter, and we have 3 or 4 other attorneys that are now going to start the process of reviewing discovery.
So you believe the government is plotting against your client?
I didn't say that.
Wait, did you hear that?
I didn't
You
say
think
that.
the government's plotting against your client?
So you believe the government is plotting against your client?
And he pointed right to her. She must have been raising her hand or whatever. So here we go.
2 more questions. Ms. Koish is on this matter. Mr. Russo is on this matter, and we have 3 or 4 other attorneys that are now going to start the process of reviewing this.
Oh, so 3 or 4 plus he just mentioned him, her, and another 3 or 4. So that's 7. He's got 7 or 8 attorneys on this.
Well, yeah, I'm going to explain to you why he has this case after we're done watching this.
Okay, let's let because here she goes with the question, and I'm going to let the rest of this play out. So
you believe the government is plotting against your client?
I didn't say that.
Fabricated these searches?
I didn't say that.
Then
I can tell you from
I
can tell you. Well, I've been doing this for 30 years. The government makes allegations all the time. Sometimes the allegations are true. Sometimes they're not true. Sometimes when they accuse somebody of committing a crime, that person is guilty. Sometimes when they accuse somebody of committing a crime, that person is innocent. So I don't know what is to bear. All I can tell you is he needs to get the presumption of innocence.
Right, but you've seen the bail application that shows that these searches were made of murder phones that were linked to Heuermann.
Okay, so did you hear that question?
No.
She says,
I haven't seen.
She says, but you saw the bail application. You saw in there where it said that he made Google searches linked to child porn, as if that's, evidence. Yeah. It's just it's a statement in a bail application. So he's gonna school her on that.
Yeah, and it's a statement of what they have collected from his forensic electronics scrub.
What I can tell you is he needs to get the presumption of innocence.
Right, but you've seen the bail application that shows that these searches were made on murder phones that were linked to Heuermann. So
Sorry?
You have seen that evidence.
I haven't seen, I'll repeat it again. I have not seen 1 ounce of evidence on this case. Today in court was the first time I was handed anything, and it's in the form of terabytes. I can't read a terabyte with my hands or my eyes, so we have to download that and start the process.
Are you going to see bail at all in this case?
What I'll say is this, down the road, if certain things come to fruition and come to light that I think would warrant a change in his custody status, we will.
They asked about bail there.
Yeah.
You're going to request bail. And he explains if something changes in this case where it warrants us saying for the following reasons, we're requesting bail because of so it's this, that, and the other.
Certainly make that application to the judge.
Right now.
Well, at this point, it would be silly for me because we don't have any. I haven't seen it.
Are you comfortable with the list of evidence provided to you as described today, and why or why not?
I haven't even looked at it.
But as it was described and listed today.
So what was described and listed is I got 5 vanilla envelopes, and they have a terabyte, 2 terabytes each. I don't. That's all I have.
Do you know are there thumb drives inside, or are you getting hard copies?
They're big black terabytes. You know what? I don't know. I think they're hard drives, right? Is that what you call them? Hard drives? So that's
what you call them?
5 hard drives that was handed to me 30 minutes ago. Okay.
And you have them in your briefcase now?
I have them right here.
How involved is
Wow, she was trying to get funny, that reporter. You have them in your briefcase right now?
Yeah, I think she was like gonna steal them from him.
Like, what the hell, lady?
Heuermann with his defense so far?
He is an involved, obviously interested party who's going to be a big part of assisting us in the defense of this case. All right, guys, thanks very much.
All right, so that was fascinating. And I played that first because, you know, District Attorney Tierney, he does go over some things, and he's asked about some of the victims' families. Were they there? We already know. We saw them walking down the hallway in the court. He didn't budge on any of his stuff. But what I made from this guy is that he is on the ball. He's sharp. And there's no possible way that Rex Heuermann could not be happy with his counsel, because from what I see right here, this guy's going to give the state the fight of their probably of their career. So what do you see? You see anything in the chat?
Maisie says he's creating doubt already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people are asking, you know, why is he in private practice and he's defending him as a public defender? And in Suffolk County, we have a legal aid society, but the legal aid society does not handle murder cases. So murder cases are handled by 18B attorneys, they're called, under Section 18B of some statute that provides that if you are indigent and you fill out an application and you qualify, a private defense attorney who has been qualified by the panel, they have to submit an application, credentials, insurance, all kinds of things, will be appointed to you. So that is why he has a private attorney, because legal aid in Suffolk does not handle murder cases.
And let me also add to the onto this, because this is also a lot of people asking this question: why, if he owns all these properties and he's got so much money, he's got all this stuff, why is he not having to hire his own private counsel? He has to show his financials to Suffolk County and to the court system to qualify. So it just doesn't happen based on his word of him saying he's broke. This tells us that he does not have enough money to hire private counsel, because they check your financials. And I know that from being around for a long time. Listen, we have Phil Grimaldi. I don't know how much time he's got. Once he gives me the thumbs up, I'd like to add him in and add him into the conversation from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. That's Detective Phil Grimaldi. Thanks for joining, Phil. How's it going, my brother?
I'm doing pretty good, Ronnie. How are you, Melanie?
Hi, Phil.
Phil, I always like to get always like to have your input on these cases. And, you know, we hear cell data, DNA, autopsy, the photos, autopsy results, and so forth is included in this 8 terabytes of evidence. And you made the correlation between Kohlberger and this 50 some odd terabytes with his 8 here. It seems like it's such a small amount, but when I read off what 8 terabytes can hold, over 100,000 MP3s, 200,000 full-length movies, and over 200,000 photos. It's a lot of data, Phil. What do you say?
Absolutely. And do we know for certain the FBI may have enlisted that FARA scan inside of Rex Heuermann's home? So that may be the reason that you have such a large file. But with all of the things that we know about this case so far, the burner phones, I think, are going to be very, very hard for him to explain away, talking about the defense attorney. The burner phones, we have video evidence of him going into a phone store, using his credit card to put more minutes on the burner phone. Those phones were used to taunt the victims' families. As we know, there was connection with some of the victims. So again, that's probably, besides the DNA, one of the strongest pieces of evidence. And we don't know if those phones were actually recovered. If they were, that makes it even more powerful. Bill and I did a show earlier today. I was talking about how even though it's a burner phone, there's no customer name and address associated with the phone, because you can buy it with a fake ID or just tell them your name is John Smith, and they'll sell them to you, whether it be in a 7-Eleven or all these different places. But there is a digital fingerprint that goes with that phone. Every call that's made is logged to that specific number that goes with that phone. So again, if they don't ever get the phone, it'd be difficult to figure out who had it. But once they tracked who was the area where the phone was and who that they believed was talking to these victims. Again, that digital fingerprint that is associated with that phone, that's going to be a little difficult to explain away as well, especially if the phone is recovered.
And people would understand this because everyone who has a cell phone knows about the IMEI number. It's a digital like serial number that every phone has. But Rex Heuermann also made a fatal error when he got these burner phones. He created his fake emails and Gmails and email accounts. He tried to mask that. He went into the T-Mobile branded store, but he paid with American Express corporate card. And that was one of his fatal mistakes that he made because that identified him through his financials. So although he did have, was doing this anonymously with these burner phones, but again, like that digital footprint, the fingerprint with the phone, and also his communications. He was communicating with these decedents, and all of the data that they collected from their phones come back to this phone, and it comes back to the financials. So it's a lot to get into. There's a lot of technical stuff that we're not going to get into because we're just covering the court appearance here tonight. I have District Attorney Tierney's statement. It's only 7 minutes. It's actually short. Can you imagine? I guess the defense took, that was, I think, 12 minutes. Let's listen to just a teeny bit of this for the audience because I wanted to cover all of these, both sides of it. So let's just put this on. Phil, you got a couple of minutes to hang out?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah,
good.
Tierney went first. Tierney spoke first, right. and yes. Brown was nowhere to be seen. He didn't even come out of the court building until Tierney was long gone. So they did not even cross paths.
Right. I have a longer version of this where he came walking out with an entourage. It was almost like something out of a movie. Like he was.
It was weird, right?
Yeah. I'll show that later on, but the News Nation has the condensed version, and I think this is best for us because he does go into a lot of in the unedited version. So let's listen to this.
Following some breaking news, a live look at court where the accused Gilgo Beach killer just appeared. We are awaiting a statement from the DA. Let's take a listen.
Allegations. So this is the first step in the process of proving those allegations. So we look forward to undertaking that process. We've spoken to the victims. The victims are not going to be making any. They've elected not to make any statements at this to the media at this time. They want to maintain their privacy. They are obviously interested in the case, but they're not going to be speaking to the media. So that's about it.
Family members were here, which victims were here in the court today. Do they want to be here for every update? What's it been like for them?
So as you can imagine, it's a very personal thing for the victims' families. So we're going to support the victims' families. They make the decision as to what they do, where they go, who they speak with. So I would never speak for the attorneys. I'm sorry, the victims' families, other than to say, we're going to support them in whatever it is that they want to do.
Are you aware if they were here today?
There were some victims. There were some victims who were family members of the victims who were here today.
Why do I have such a bad vibe about this guy? He fumbles over all of his words. Like,
couldn't agree with you more, DutyRon. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, Phil, I'm going to put us all back on for a second.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Like we have a lot, and listen, he may perform brilliantly in the courtroom, but he made the decision that most district attorneys who run the county of Suffolk, right? You have the Queens, like in the 5 boroughs, we have each borough has their own head, the district attorney, and then they have all the assistants, right? So they have some of their best people on their higher profile cases, but you never see the actual elected district attorney of Queens County or Kings County try a case. DA Morgenthau is not trying many cases. So Melanie, have this guy step up and say, I got this. I'm doing it.
It's a political position.
There you go.
This is an elected position. This is not based on merit. This is not, we pick the best trial lawyer in the state or the county to come and be our DA. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
You know, people are saying he sounds like a politician. He is a politician. He had to run for office and be elected to this job. I don't know what his record was before this. I don't know how many murder cases he's tried to verdict. I don't know. What I do know is that he does not project confidence.
No. Phil, when you see a guy fumbling over his words at a press conference, not just this one, every single one, and they're lengthy. What's your thoughts on that, Phil?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that question, because I am not impressed with Tierney at all. I think that he stole the press conferences right from the beginning. I think that the police commissioner and law enforcement officials should have been heading the press conferences in the beginning stages of this case, even through the whole search at the house. He was out front there every day, and I think Melanie hit the nail right on the head. He's a politician. That's how he's coming across. But I saw numerous interviews with him, Fox, Channel 2, Channel 5, and he was being led around by the reporters. He was not, commanding. If you look at Michael Brown, I was very impressed with him. He's going to be a tough act to get up there and go up against in the courtroom. I think that I put this in the chat. Every witness is going to have to bring their A game, because he's going to push hard. He's going to push back. And if you're not on your A game and you're not certain, you're going to be fumbling around on the stand in the courtroom. Jury's going to take that as weakness. That could be troublesome. I think that you just have to, do your testimony, stay strong with it. If you have evidence to back it up, you have, whether it be technical, physical, sciences behind it, you have to stay with it. A guy like him is going to push hard and possibly try to get someone to change their answer. That's very, very dangerous in a court of law.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. But again, like I said in the beginning of the statement here, and when we started speaking about this aspect of District Attorney Tierney, he may shine in the courtroom. When the spotlight comes on him inside the courtroom, he may have this switch where he just because for him to step up and say, I am prosecuting this case, along probably with some of his assistants that you'll see in the courtroom, he'll probably have his best surrounding him. We may all be very surprised. But what I'm seeing here is troubling for me, because this is not pressure. He's outside around the trees, and again, he's in the sun. You see a little bit of bead sweating coming up onto his head. But he's being peppered with questions by reporters who basically they're not cornering him, and he is fumbling over his words. Let's take a little more listen to this.
Which victims?
I'm not going to discuss that.
Can you explain what that order of protection you got the defense attorney to agree to?
So there's just certain conditions with regard to the disclosure of materials, and that's something that was worked out between the court, defense counsel, and ourselves, and that's standard procedure. It's under seal.
You said it will take a whole month to go through.
I'm sorry?
Voluminous, you say it will take a full month to go through.
You're talking about 13 years worth of investigation. So it is. I'm not going to speak for defense counsel, but suffice to say, it is a massive amount of material. And don't forget, it's continuing because the investigation is continuing. So we're talking about a massive amount of material.
We have a task force that's been in place, and we understand that you want to keep it in place and also expand your cold case unit. Are you getting tips about other victims who may have been found on highways or roadways near where Heuermann may have lived or where he may have frequented? Are you getting new tips that are valuable to you?
We receive tips on, in all cases at all times. We take those serious and we work through them, but we maintain the confidentiality of the investigation up until the time we can bring charges.
Can you think about discussing chambers in the long conference before?
It was basically what I just elicited, what I just spoke to you all about, which was the discovery schedule and the manner in which we were going to get this massive amount of discovery over to the defense. It has to be done in a way that makes sense for the defense, but also makes sense for us as well, so they can understand what they get, and we're able to catalog and identify, what exactly it is we provided.
Last time you said that you had some case. Last time you said that it was some stories about the DNA for the 4 victims. It's already progress about that.
So the investigation is continuing, but once that investigation is concluded, we'll have more to say. But that investigation is ongoing.
Last week, you said the scores of evidence gathered at the Massapequa Park home would take time to sift through. How much of what was handed over today is from last week's search?
It was placed on the record, specifically what we turned over, which is part of the court record. I don't think anything specifically from the recent searches has been turned over.
Okay, so that was great, Phil, that they asked that. The reporter said, how much of the evidence you turned over today was from the search of the Massapequa Park home? And he said, none. So all of it is going to be from maybe the infancy, parts of this investigation back in the day. And listen, don't forget, folks, this task force started in February of 2022, and they identified him 6 weeks later on March 14th, 2022. So everything investigatory wise from the inception of this task force going forward to current day, which is 16 going on 17 months, that's a lot of investigation, and it's a lot of surveillance and a lot of photos and videos that they took of his movements, of his going in and out, as we saw some of those leaked photos of him going into the T-Mobile store in Midtown Manhattan and re-upping his burner phone. Those are pictures that are plastered all over the place. He's got some cash in his hand. He's got his wallet open. He's got a guy next to him with a T-Mobile shirt on. And the pizza crust and all of that stuff. We didn't hear any of the inner workings of how that all went down. But Phil, you and I both know how this stuff goes. Everything's documented. They're dotting their I's and crossing their T's. There's hundreds, arguably thousands of snap photos, high-res photos, and high-res videos, 4K videos. The equivalent of Taru is probably mounting cameras on poles, watching him outside of his business in Midtown Manhattan.
Absolutely, Ronnie. Absolutely. And don't forget, like you said, 16 months, there was a slew of detectives involved in this case. It was a task force. You had the state police, you had the FBI, you had the Suffolk County Police, and you had investigators from the sheriff's office, as well as investigators from the Suffolk County District Attorney's office. So all of these things together, that's why we believe 8 terabytes was turned over today. None of the evidence that was turned over had to do with the search warrant on the house. Then we also have the vehicle that was out in South Carolina. So perhaps going forward, there's going to be more stuff turned over to the defense. At the end of it, who knows how many terabytes it's going to be, but they're going to need time to go over all of this stuff. I do want to say this. I read a couple of comments in the chats. I don't doubt that Tina could be a good prosecutor in the courtroom, as you said, DutyRon. He just doesn't come off that well as a public speaker. I think maybe he didn't have many high-profile cases in his career. That's the inference I'm getting. Again, I just think that the police department should have taken the lead in the first week or two while this whole thing was playing out. Now we're at the court stage. That's when the district attorney could maybe make some statements. And I also think that he gave a little bit too much of the evidence to the public in the early stages. I watched an interview with Neil Cavuto the other day with him, and Neil Cavuto was basically leading him around. So I don't think he has the experience with media, so to speak. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to knock him that he's not a good prosecutor.
Could be. And those are some very good points. And Melanie, I wanted to go to you for a second. Somebody in the chat said, he didn't get into his position by not being a good trial attorney or a good attorney. But so I guess the person who put that in the chat didn't hear. These are elected positions, just like our coroner system across the country. And I hate to put them and make examples of them, but some of our coroners that are in office and they're elected officials, like DA attorney is an elected official, some of them don't belong there because they don't have great experience. And I'm not saying that about this district attorney, but some people are kind of just a little bit off. Melanie, can you just update
Yeah,
us on that?
I'm reading his bio right now. You can look at his bio. It's on raytierneyforda.com. This was when he was running for DA. Remember, he just took office as Suffolk County DA in January of 2022. And his experience is he went to Brown University, graduated in 88, St. John's Law, graduated in 92. He worked for 14 years as an assistant district attorney in Suffolk County. Most of his cases involve gang-related incidents. He tried some cases against MS-13. He was at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District, which is mostly, RICO cases and stuff like that. White-collar cases. There's nothing here that screams, Bruce Cutler, right? Or, Mark Garagos, or guys who often are on the defense side, but have heavy experience trying murder cases.
Right.
This is a serial murder case. This is about the biggest murder case. This could make or break your career.
Huge. This is the walkout that I was talking to you about that I thought was kind of like movie-like,
They walked in like that too. Down the hall, flanked. It was like Men in Black. It was like some kind of Men in Black. This is like Secret Service or something.
Yeah. I mean, Jennifer McLogan walked out, a couple of the court officers, caps on, guys checking his glasses, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got this. I don't know. There's some people who argue that he's taken this to get himself reelected. I think that I would, in my opinion, say he's looking to get justice for the victims and their families. And he's looking to present the best case that he can with the evidence that is provided to him by his investigators. And Phil, seasoned NYPD homicide detective, squad detective, we hand over our case file to the district attorney's office and they take it from there. And they sign off whether they're going to go and charge the perpetrators or the people that we take into custody. It's no different in this case. It's just that it's coming from a multitude of different agencies, the FBI, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's department, all of the different investigative branches that combined to, in 16 months, pull this guy in and identify him. So I wanted to show the audience that because we talked about it, and I thought it was important that they saw that walkout. I want to wrap it up with just saying this. Melanie, you did a fantastic job of giving us a bird's eye view, boots on the ground, as you say, and I love that terminology. Melanie is always ready to jump in her car, whether it's going out to Gilgo late at night, taking videos, taking photographs without impeding an investigation, because she understands from that attorney's perspective of how important it is to not futz around. And I was going to use the F word and I stopped myself, but not futz around with justice. The wheels of justice are in motion right now, and we want a fair and impartial jury. We want fair and impartial judge to get to hear this case, and we want this case to go off without a snafu. There's no second, there's no second shot at this. So let's do the best that we can. But I wanted to acknowledge the effort that you made today, Melanie. And if people are not yet subscribed to Attorney Melanie Little, she's linked down below in the description. I'm going to add her in as one of my suggested channels. Go over there and check out her work. She is a consummate professional. And so is Phil and Bill over at Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Guys, if you're not subscribed, go and check them out. They're one of my suggested channels, just as, just as I suggest all of my good friends on YouTube, Profiling Evil with Mike King, always great folks. So Melanie, I wanted to get the last word from you, from the attorney's perspective. You were there in the courtroom today. How did you feel leaving that courthouse and on the drive home? What was your thoughts?
It was crazy because I was seeing it from the other side. I'm usually the lawyer. I go in, I get in quickly, I get out quickly, do my thing. This was like an all-day event for me. This was hanging around with like reporters and people from the media that I've been watching for years. It was really kind of cool. One thing that I did notice from the press conference is, remember that old expression? I think it was from an advertising campaign, never let them see you sweat.
Right. Yeah.
Every time I look at Ray Tierney, I feel like he's sweating and he just looks really nervous. And that makes me really nervous because we in Suffolk County on Long Island have been living with this case for 13 years. Like, we want this guy convicted. We want this case to go off without a hitch. We want it to stay in Suffolk County. We do not want anybody else taking control of this case. And, oh, thank you, Secret Twist. That's sweet. And I don't think it's going to be moved out of Suffolk County, but this is a very personal case for people that live on Long Island. And I would argue the entire, 5 boroughs. I don't think there's any other county that you could move it to nearby that you could argue you'd get a fair trial in.
Yeah.
So I hope it stays here. I think based on what Cutler said, but it's not Bruce Cutler. It's based on what Michael Brown said.
Michael Brown.
He said, we're going to try this case in a courtroom upstairs. That's what he said. It seemed to me like he's not even going to try to change venue, and good, because the people of Suffolk County is it's always been, as far as juries go, as a plaintiff or you want your case in the Bronx, right? Because in the Bronx, everybody gets off, everybody gets awarded billions of dollars. But Suffolk County traditionally has always been a very, I want to say, measured, conservative, but not that politically, what I mean? But like, the juries are conservative. They're well-educated. They listen. They're fair.
Right.
And they pay taxes here. So they take it very seriously. They take jury duty very seriously. So we want a conviction. We want to keep this case here. Stop sweating.
Right. And it's a huge population to choose from, the jury pools in Suffolk County. Most of them are retired. A lot of people are retired. My dad used to love to go and serve on jury duty. And he was also one of the guys that did the voting, the polling places. He was a volunteer, So a lot of people who are not glued to the TV in Suffolk County. But yeah, listen, I look forward to this trial kicking off. And as the attorney said, it may be months from now and it may be years from now. It all depends on how this thing is going to go. And I would not say months from now. I would say years from now. So a lot of people in the chat, Phil, are saying they want to see this thing on TV. And heck, as Melanie said in the beginning, if there was going to be a trial to be televised, this would be the one, because it's going to be a doozy. It really is. There's going to be so much information, so much evidence, so many different oohs and ahs and twists and turns. This is something that we would love to see. But don't hold your breath. So it is what it is. Phil, I want to say thank you to you as well for taking out the time. I know you did a live with Bill earlier. It's always a pleasure to have you and your expertise come on here. We greatly appreciate Ed Wallace and I and Melanie. We appreciate your input and your insight, because it's fantastic, Phil.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. And I just want to say, I appreciate you having me on, and it's a pleasure to be on with Melanie. I told Bill earlier tonight, I said, Melanie's going to be a superstar in this podcast stuff, because she's so articulate and she's fantastic at what she does. I just wanted to say one other thing. If you want to look at some of the stuff that's going to be, that Rex Heuermann and his defense attorney is going to have to go up against, look at some of the searches that he did with fake emails that they tied to him. It's in the bail application. You can get it. It's downloadable, 32 pages, but there's some really sick stuff that he was looking at. And he was also monitoring the investigation. I think that screams guilty, a consciousness of guilt, as Mike Geary says. And just look at the way that Mike Brown handled himself in that press conference, how when the reporter or whoever it was that asked the question about DNA, he said, well, did you see the DNA? He pushed right back. That guy's going to be tough in court, but there's a mountain of evidence. So I think we'll be okay with regard to justice in this case.
Amen to that, Phil. Amen. Hey, I promised everybody I would show this, so I got to do this. And again, I think it's important. There's been so much conversation about the disarray that the house was left in by the Suffolk County Police who executed that search warrant. So I want to show it. This is 59 seconds. It's on a loop, and this is the inside of the home as Rex Heuermann's wife, Asa, and her children entered into the home. So this is various photographs of the inside of the home and how it was left. So I'm just going to play this real quick. It's only 59 seconds. There's no sound to it, obviously. Hey, Phil, I wanted to ask you about the tub. I made a mention of it. That's
Yes.
obviously sawzalled out, a big section of it, and the tile on the floor taken out. We know from our experience, they don't just start ripping up tiles for no reason and cutting out a bathtub like that. There had to been good reason for them to do that, because in the search warrant return, they're going to have to put that in the return of why they did that and what they found in those particular locations, whether it was negative results or positive results.
I think it's going to be forensic evidence. They're looking for blood evidence in that, in and around that tub. I guess the tile.
There's a drain. There's a drain right here too.
Absolutely, and there could be hair. There could be blood. Definitely, I believe that some of the victims were dismembered, so possibly that could tie into it. Again, they
that he's charged with, though, but
right, I know some of the other victims, right? Exactly. The house does look like it's real messy, but they did describe it beforehand as being filled with clutter. So again, if you have to do a search and there's a lot of different boxes and articles, they have to be moved around. I know it looks terrible, but maybe if they showed a picture of what it looked like beforehand, we might get a better perspective on what was in that house. Right out of Rodney Harrison's mouth, the police commissioner from Suffolk County, he said the house had a lot of clutter. So again, it doesn't look like it was well kept, this home to begin with. So
he called them pack rats, Phil.
Yeah, exactly. So when you look at that, and again, Ronnie, you've done searches, I've done searches. It's not easy to search when there's a lot of crap around. You have to move it, and you're looking for evidence. You're going to go through everything, and of course, it's going to be messy at the end of that search.
Why? I have a question for you guys. Why do some of those boxes still have yellow evidence tape on them? If these pictures this video was taken after the police left, did they forget to take boxes of evidence with them? I'm confused.
Yeah,
that is a little confusing. I mean, I don't know when that photo was taken, but if it was taken after they left, perhaps they got boxes ready to take stuff and then decided not to take it. And they left it behind.
Right. We showed in the search when they were digging up the backyard and prior to the dig, they had a ton of pre-made boxes with the yellow evidence tape. So maybe some of them they didn't use and they just got out of there and left them. Who knows?
Don't forget, they were there for 12 days too. So if they left something like that behind, I don't think it was obviously a mistake or anything like that.
Technically speaking, though, you don't want to do that. And I mean, if we
of course
Wallace about this, he'd be like, I would not do that.
Well, maybe there was something, family photos, they threw it into that box and they didn't want to leave them scattered on the floor. It could be something like that. I don't know.
Anything's possible. Dawn in Wyoming, thank you for the $10 super sticker. And Melanie, just so you know, and Phil, you can tell Bill about this because I don't think he gets it either. The super stickers are it says a super sticker on it and you can't put a comment in there. The super chats are the super chats, people can put a message in it. So anytime you see something like this, where it says super sticker, then it's a sticker. If it's a super chat, someone can actually put an actual chat in there for you to read. So
I'll bring it up to Bill.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the hang of this, and it's going to be amazing. When
You're going to be a superstar.
I will
Trust me.
be
I can see it already.
perfect. Yes. I will thank everyone. Annika, thank you for the super chat that you gave me earlier. I put it in the comments because I totally spaced it. They automatically get starred. I learned that too, but now I know.
Hour and 33 minutes. I want to thank my two guests, Melanie Little and Detective Phil Grimaldi from Police Off the Cuff. Melanie Little, Attorney Melanie Little's, her YouTube channel linked in the description. If you're not yet subscribed, everybody that's here, almost 2,000 of you guys, give this video a thumbs up, share it out onto your social media platform, and don't forget, follow me and Ed Wallace on all things social media. One word, DutyRon, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and yes, we are on TikTok. We're not swinging from a pole. We're sharing our videos on TikTok. So go and check us out on there. We appreciate all the support. And as I like to end all of these live streams, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially these victims' families, victims and their families. They need us. They need our support. Let's be kind to them. Let's Send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Melanie Little and Phil Grimaldi, we wish you all a good night and thank you for joining.
Stay
Good night.
safe,
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye, guys.